On earmarks?
Totally against them. Earmarks are things that don't go through the normal appropriation process. It's 435 congressmen, 100 senators trying to curry favor. And it's a natural instinct for everybody wanted to do that. Everybody wants to be the hero, bring home the bacon, be there for the ribbon cutting ceremony in case of some congressman have a building named after him or whatever. That's wrong. That's wrong. We totally gonna have to go through the, first of all, we can't afford it, and it's the wrong process to get things done. Go through the normal appropriation process, go through committees, things need to be going to bills, that's one thing. And it better be something that is based on what the role of the federal government. None of these, bridges of nowhere. Thank you.
Let me start by saying it's absolutely untrue that earmarks don't go through the normal appropriations process. Thanks to reforms that were passed several years ago when the Democrats took over Congress, they are completely transparent and they have to go through the appropriations process. Every earmark that is requested has to be online in great detail for everybody to see and everybody to be able to evaluate. Earmarks make up about $35 to $40 billion of the budget. And let's say we got rid of them, okay? Would that mean that Dick or I would stop advocating for our district? No, but instead of having a member of Congress who would be able to do it, we would be totally at the mercy of the executive branch. Department of Transportation, HUD, we would not be able to have our input. In a limited, transparent way, earmarks are good for their districts. Mine are online. If there's an earmark there that's wrong, that's wasteful, that's a bridge to nowhere, and by the way, the people who did the bridge to nowhere got roundly pummeled as well they should have, then that's wrong. But I'm going to advocate for my district, and I don't want to turn the needs of my district over to the bureaucrats back in the executive branch in Washington, D.C. I'm going to fight for this district for the priorities. And Dick's right, there's going to be a lot less money for that, but I don't want the 9th District cut out of that.
Where do you stand on auditing the Defense Department? That amount, and how will these cuts affect veterans' entitlements?
Well, the federal government, the military and veterans are not going to be cut. And that's the role of the federal government. The federal government was put together to serve for the 13 states at the time to have a common military and so that is the role of the federal government. But the other areas we're going to start cutting is everything from community development block grants to 5,000 bureaucrats at the Department of Education. We need to start slimming them down. We need to start looking at ways that we're going to stop bailing out cities and towns and corporations. We need to really truly look at all the money we're spending and start cutting it back. And we also then need to get businesses growing so they can generate the tax revenue. The tax revenue will come when corporations and businesses are free to hire. And they're free to hire when they know they have a playing ground that is fixed. The uncertainty right now is what's causing this jobless recovery. And by the way, Europe and Canada and all those places that didn't do these stimulus bills are doing much better than us.
I mean, by and large, I feel that Dick has run very honest campaigns, been a good debate. That, however, is the most disingenuous answer that I've ever heard. $1.3 trillion needs to be cut out of the budget. How are we going to do it? Community development block grants? Bureaucrats at the Department of Education? The numbers are unrelenting here, okay? Remember my little pie chart that I realized got a little too detailed earlier. $3.5 trillion, all right? And we took defense and veterans off the table, so that's about 33% of the budget. Okay, what's left? Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and everything else. Transportation, education, which is why I'm not going to stand here and pretend that I could cut $1.3 trillion out of that budget, all right? If you cut it out, you're cutting Social Security, you're cutting Medicare, you're cutting everything right now. So if that's the position, we got to have a balanced budget amendment. You all cheered $1.3 trillion out of the budget. At least have the guts to say, this is what it's going to mean, okay? And you didn't.
Given that Social Security currently has a huge surplus,
I'll handle that in a second.
It does not add one penny to our national debt, 100% solvent for several more decades, and raises the cap on payroll tax. Will you support eliminating the cap on payroll tax to save Social Security?
There are two separate pieces of this, and there's just no way I'm going to get this done in a minute. The real question is, can we simply raise taxes to make Social Security solvent for a longer period of time? I'm extraordinarily reluctant to do that. because we've got the Bush tax cuts that are going away. We got a whole lot of other places where taxes are going up. If you simply raise taxes even further, that places a much, much bigger burden, and I'm very concerned about the impact that would have. And I'm sorry, but Social Security has a surplus in an accounting sense of the word. The government lends the money to itself. Social Security has a dedicated tax. 12.6% of our payroll goes into it, all right? But they also have a law that says you can't invest any of the excess money, no matter where. So that money has gone into the general budget. And the general budget is $1.3 trillion in debt. So we owe money to ourselves, and we are $13 trillion in debt. So it's not that helpful that we happen to have a sub-account that theoretically has a surplus. And I need more time to explain that. But it is a significant problem. And I know that my side of the aisle doesn't agree with me on this, but it is a significant problem, and accounting gimmicks aren't going to solve it.
Well, it was a mistake when Lyndon Johnson took the Social Security budget and combined it with the general budget. That should never have been done in the first place. You probably agree with me on that. It would be nice to have it separated out there. We also need to make sure that and I wouldn't raise the earnings cap, because then you have to raise the payment cap by the current law. What we really need to do is make sure also that Social Security system is not being abused. One of the things I don't have a clear picture, but there's people who move to this country, become U.S. citizens who've never paid into Social Security, and then eligible for a level of Social Security. And I talked to a lot of the immigrant groups, and they think that is bizarre. And we also have a system that Social Security disability, which we need to look at. It tends to be often abused. It's easy to get, and it's another way where the system is money's being taken out of the system. People who aren't getting a pension but are getting Social Security disability for just about everything from alcoholism to drug use to you name it. I think we need to really look at those laws and tighten them up.
Will you support full public financing of elections?
No.
There actually is a public financing bill that I do support. And I think there is a major, major problem in our elections right now, that they are being driven exclusively by hundreds of millions of dollars. I think there's also a major problem that individual members of Congress have to raise so much money. Thus far, Dick and I have a smaller campaign than some, but it goes in the $3 and $4 billion. You gotta get down from federal budget, $1 million range. And there are states, Arizona, New Mexico, Vermont, or Maine, that have passed a public financing law that have taken fundraising completely off the table, and you simply have candidates running on issues. You will note that in a lot of ads, again, Dick and I haven't done this, and that's good, people will go after an elected official by saying they took money from this interest group and therefore they're bad. The reason they do that is it polls very well. Once you find out someone's taken a position that you don't like them. Then when you find out that they took a position that you don't like, that somebody with money does like, who gave it to them, you really don't like them. And that undermines all of our credibility. Every single vote we take, people say, well, why'd they do it? Sometimes it's like, he got $2,000 from that industry, and then people go, he's corrupt. It is undermining confidence in our system to a degree that is devastating. We need to come in. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. They'll slam you. I mean, just look at the Patty Murray, Dina Rossi stuff. Undermines the credibility of the very system that we're trying to support. Sorry.
My answer was a little bit...
Yeah, that's right. Between the two of us, 2 minutes.